Hey YouTubers, Ron here with Best Tool Upgrades. Wanted to provide a video regarding the standard triggered gun that comes with the Harbor Freight and similar cabinets versus the triggerless gun that we sell at Best Tool Upgrades. We get a lot of questions about the original gun, and sometimes guys will upgrade other components of their blast cabinet still using the original gun. They're not getting the kind of performance they would like to get, and they're asking us, what the problem is with this gun. So what we're going to do is a direct side-by-side comparison of the typical triggered style gun. This is the style that comes with Harbor Freight and similar cabinets. It's also widely available through multiple sources versus the triggerless gun that we sell. So in some earlier videos we did some cutaways of our different metering valves. The very best way to show you how these two compare to one another is to do the cutaway. And so what we did is literally cut these two guns in half to expose all of the internal workings so that we can explain to you what's going on with their gun. And well, it kind of hurt us to have to do this. We cut away to show you the direct comparison with our gun. So let's go ahead and start with the gun that comes with the Harbor Freight and similar blast cabinets. Okay, so here we are looking at the cut open Harbor Freight style gun. Let's just explain the basics of how this works. This is where the air line connects through this brass fitting. The air travels up through this internal chamber. This is the trigger mechanism, which is actually quite complicated. And you'll notice that the air actually travels through the trigger mechanism because this gasket here, this plunger, if you will, is what opens and closes the flow of air. So this functions with this spring, and you can turn this hex plug in and out to adjust the tension on the spring. But the plunger is pushed by the trigger mechanism on this hinge pin right here. There are two O-rings that seal the air from leaking. When we opened this one up, there was only one O-ring, so at some point that got chewed up and spit out. When you push on the trigger, it opens this plunger and the air will run around it and then continue on its course. The air comes up here. This is an access plug that stays closed, could create a leak. The air goes down the barrel of the gun. This is the orifice. The orifice is held in place with a little rubber gasket, which we presume helps to seal it. The end of the gun is actually removable with a set screw. So let me just pull this apart ever so slightly. This is the nozzle retainer. The tube that carries the media up from the hopper is connected here. The media is being fed in here. This little collar helps to seat the nozzle, and this is the ceramic nozzle at the end. All right, so now you've got the basic understanding of where the air flows through and where the media flows through. Let's talk a little bit more about what the issues are with this gun. First of all, the casting itself, you can see, is extremely porous, and it's possible that some of these pores actually leak right through the casting and are costing you some pressure, but clearly this is a low quality casting to begin with. The air inlet fixture is typically not adjustable in terms of the position. Once you've screwed it down, we'll make a comparison to our gun in just a moment or two. The trigger mechanism, as I indicated, is quite complex. So this one was missing an O-ring. These O-rings are meant to seal. You've got to take this apart to check these O-rings. You've got to take the O-rings somewhere in order to match them if you need one. The plunger itself is going to be subject to wear. it's also subject to clogging and being kept open if any particles of any kind get swept up into this through the airflow. So this design is very restrictive, pretty complicated, and is essentially impossible to get any replacement parts. Now let's focus on the orifice. One of the things that you don't get a choice of when you buy the Harbor Freight cabinet is to match the orifice size to the size of your compressor. One size does not fit all. This is a fairly small orifice. Turn it up on end. You see the opening is quite small. And so this is going to work best with very, very small compressors. If you have a large compressor, you're really going to be restricting your flow. But the key piece here is that this orifice cannot be changed out to a different size. Harbor Freight nor any of the other companies that supply these kind of guns supply these orifices. So when you buy the guns, you don't know what orifice size you're getting. You don't know whether it's matched to your compressor to achieve maximum functionality. And if something happens to it, you're not going to be able to replace it. Now let's go out to the ceramic nozzle. The nozzle itself, you again typically don't get a choice of size. In general, the opening, the interior diameter of the nozzle should be 2 times the diameter of the orifice. And you can see in this case that they are pretty badly mismatched, with the diameter of the nozzle being what, 4 or 5 times the size of the orifice inside diameter. So what we have here is a system that is, oops, got that right, is a system where you don't get to choose the size of the parts. The parts that come with it aren't even matched to one another, and it's very, very difficult to get replacement parts. In fact, it's essentially impossible. The other thing is that this little sleeve up here, which we cut in half, you can see what's going on, allows the air to come into the back of the orifice. But if this sleeve moves at all, it's going to begin to block the air, and it's essentially impossible to see whether this sleeve is rotating within the bore. One last thought on this triggered gun. This orifice is not adjustable. By that I mean you cannot adjust the distance between the tip of the orifice and the opening, the backside opening of the nozzle. Why is that a problem? Because this is essentially creating a kind of Venturi effect, and you want to be able to dial that in to have fine control and get the maximum efficiency out of your gun. So in addition to all the other issues that we found right here, this is fixed in place and is non-adjustable. Now that we've seen what the issues are with the standard Harbor Freight style triggered gun, let's move this one out of view, and let's just move it out of your lives. And let's take a look at our gun. So right away you see that this gun, being a triggerless gun, is much simpler in design. So let's talk about the same things we did with the other gun just a moment ago. Okay, so this is where the airline attaches to the brass fitting. There's a straight shot of air going through the orifice, which is right here, this entire structure, and then back into the back end of the nozzle. The media line connects here. Media is being drawn up by vacuum and then being sprayed out through the nozzle, out through the nozzle keeper at the end. So let's open this up just a little bit further to do this little further explanation. At the back of our gun, you see that we have a swivel fitting, which means that you can adjust the orientation of the hose around its linear axis to make it a little more adjustable, a lot more adjustable. Remember, in the other, there was no adjustability. The orifice here, we sell with a specific inner diameter, and we have multiple sizes that match the compressor specs that your compressor is putting out in terms of cubic feet per minute. The nozzle also comes in different sizes, and the nozzle is matched to the orifice in order to give you that proper relationship between orifice size and nozzle size. And if you're looking at this and saying, well, that's not exactly 2-to-1, let me also explain that with our orifice, the narrowest part is down here, and then it opens up a little bit towards the tip. In the other gun, the narrowest part is at the end here. This is a better design just in terms of flow. All right, so if we go just a little bit further, you'll notice that there is this brass nut that allows you to set the depth of the orifice into the body of the gun. And what that does is it creates a situation where you can control the distance between the front tip of the orifice and the back of the nozzle to get the maximum efficiency in creating that venturi gap that creates the suction. Our nozzle is held in with this brass knurled threaded ring, and you can see that the casting itself is very dense with essentially zero porosity. So let's just lay them side by side and do one last quick comparison. Here's where the airflow comes in. Here's where the airflow comes in. Swivel fitting, non-swivel fitting. Complicated trigger mechanism, no trigger mechanism. This is activated using a floor pedal, which also is much more ergonomic in that you're not sitting there and having to keep squeezing the gun in order to keep the airflow going. You can get continuous airflow just with the tip of your foot. The parts here are complicated and impossible to source. Of course, no trigger here. You're never going to have a problem with the trigger. We have a 90-degree bend, a 90-degree bend, a 60-degree bend. Here we have just the one venturi bend up at the top. You have essentially a mystery orifice in terms of size that you'll never be able to source, and a mismatched nozzle diameter to inside orifice diameter. Here you have the choice to put different kinds, different sizes of orifices in here that match your compressor. These can be swapped, a smaller one for a larger one if you change compressor size or you have different needs for your gun in terms of vastly different media. A single O-ring versus multiple O-rings, and a much larger and sturdier nozzle. So guys, we hope that this has been helpful and has explained some of the mysteries and curiosities of the very inexpensive and inefficient trigger style gun versus a much more sophisticated and much more efficient and much easier to adjust and source parts triggerless gun. We appreciate you listening to the video. Please subscribe to our channel. If you have any questions about blast cabinet guns or any other components, please reach out to us in the comments and we'll do our very best to answer your questions. And please visit the link to our website shown immediately below, where you can purchase all of our upgrade kit components, including full kits, as well as our upgrade kit for the Harbor Freight parts washer. Have a great day. Happy blasting.